Hi, I'm Jerry Alphen, the Alumni Director of UVU. I'm here with Sean Reyes, who's a candidate for Utah Attorney General. Sean, tell us what experience you have that qualifies you for the position of Attorney General in the state of Utah.
Sure. I've spent my entire career as a lawyer in the courtroom, defending Utah companies, defending Utah citizens. I've litigated cases, I've tried cases, I've appealed cases at the highest levels, so practiced in courts throughout the country, done cases in front of the United States and Utah Supreme Court. I've argued cases myself at the appellate level, argued before the 10th Circuit Court of Appeal. So I have really spent my entire career as a substantive lawyer, and if coupled with the leadership experience that I have leading organizations, whether they be civic organizations or charitable organizations, some that have gained national acclaim and prominence, that's, to me, the important qualifications. Those are the things that will benefit the citizens of the state of Utah the most. Legal experience, leadership experience, and a dedication to service.
Thank you, Sean. What are the top priorities for your office in the coming 2 years?
Top priorities, I would say, for the Attorney General's office is to return it back to being a true law office. A law firm for the people is what I like to say. It's far too political right now, and it's also far too susceptible and influenced by political agendas, special interests, lobbyists. And so my real vision is to make sure that it returns back to being a law office for the people. And people ask, isn't politics a part of it? Well, clearly, politics plays a role in the office, and the office is surrounded by politics, but that should be secondary to the Constitution, to the law, and to the considerations of what's in the best interests of the citizens of the state of Utah. So really, for me, that is the top priority right now, is to make that office more transparent, make it more efficient, make it more effective to be a voice of advocacy for the people. Let me add this too. The Attorney General represents the state agencies, and those state agencies have a wide impact on the everyday lives of the average citizen. But in that representation of those state agencies, the AG must ensure that individual liberties, individual rights aren't harmed by state actions. So there's always this tension that the state is your client, whether it be law enforcement or DCFS in the context of child issues. You have to make sure that the state doesn't, the Attorney General must make sure that the state doesn't overstep its boundaries and harm the interests of the citizens. So that to me is the preeminent priority at this time.
Explain the difference between you and your opponent.
The difference comes down to this, because we agree on a lot of issues, but it's our backgrounds. My opponent is much more political. He's been a lobbyist for most of his career. He's not recognized as a lawyer by the legal community or the business community. And there's a reason why, if you look on our website, you'll see endorsements by hundreds of legal leaders, business leaders, community leaders. And the vast majority of those leaders who have endorsed in this race support me because they know that I'm not a career politician or a career lobbyist or fundraiser. I'm a career lawyer and a leader, and that's the difference. And what I like to say is we're not running for lobbyist general or fundraiser general or candidate general. We're running for attorney general, and it's important that the person that the state selects to represent them, to protect their families and to protect their interests, be a real attorney respected by the legal community and the business community. Now, I do have relationships on the Hill. I have relationships with the legislature and with the governor, but they respect me for my legal background. I've helped consult with them on different bills. That's a different dynamic. There's a respect based on my legal expertise. There's not a relationship based on campaign fundraising or special interests or lobbying work that's been done. And I want that office to be independent and autonomous and to be able to stand up even to the legislature or the governor when at times I feel that things may not be going the way that they should or they may be unconstitutional. And so, again, I think that is the key difference. And I've told people if they think that lobbying skills and fundraising skills are the most important skill set, then they ought to vote for my opponent, because I don't have those and they'd be disappointed in me. But if they share my vision that it should be a law firm first to represent the people, then I'm far more qualified when it comes to substantive legal experience and leadership experience, and my background in service and pro bono legal service, I think, speaks for itself.
Well, thanks, Sean. Let's talk about the challenges you believe you'd face as Attorney General in the next few years.
Sure, there's some looming challenges. One is always from the federal government, and the Attorney General, one of the Attorney General's key roles is to represent the state against the encroachment and the ever growing overreach of the federal government. And that touches on so many issues. One is our public lands, and that's a priority for me, to look at ways to either through legal remedies, and I think it'll require both a lawsuit and congressional pressure to help us finally liberate our public lands and be able to access for energy development, to be able to finance our children's education now and into the future, and to keep our jobs and our economy prosperous. That is a big issue. Fighting against the federal government, whether it be health care mandates, education mandates that I believe are unconstitutional, that are top-down solutions that are forced upon us by the federal government, gun control, business regulations. I mean, there's so many more levels of federal regulation in our lives that the state AG has to be a fighter and has to be able to understand and prioritize and pick the right fights, but to stand up for the state. So state sovereignty and 10th Amendment issues are very important to me, and I might add, of my 3 priorities as Attorney General, I'm anticipating that you might ask, aside from representing the state against the federal government, I also want to make sure that we protect our business community. That's something that a lot of attorneys general I don't think focus on enough. And I want to make sure that people in business who lie or cheat or steal know that they're going to get prosecuted, regardless of campaign contributions, regardless of political relationships, regardless of what their name is or who they are, because that's the conservative way. That's how the market ought to work, and people who are following the rules should be incentivized, not punished for doing that. So concurrently with my role as a defender and a fighter for Utah's states' rights, also to protect our business community. And my 3rd priority, none of them more important than the other, all concurrently important, is to protect Utah's families, to protect individuals and families from violent crimes like the proliferation of gangs and drugs. The drugs coming up through our porous corridor are a big issue. And the cartels are bringing many, many ills and evils along with those. Predators on the internet or in the streets, cyberbullying at school, domestic violence is on the rise, child abuse is still extremely high and too high. Let me say, I think any crimes against children are the most heinous crimes, and we have to be vigilant about protecting our children. But we also cannot let the pendulum swing so far the other way that the state is coming in and prematurely taking children out of the home and supplanting their so-called wisdom for parental choice or family choice, like in the Parker Jensen case, where the state essentially said, we know better. And so we must balance, and the Attorney General plays a key role in that balance, allocating the proper resources to protecting family rights and parental rights so children aren't ripped prematurely away from the home. And so when I say protect families, I mean it very comprehensively, not just against crimes and not just health-wise, but also to keep them together, and the traditional notion of a family. Those things are all very important to me, and that's where I would expend my resources along those 3 priorities.
That's very well stated. One of the things you didn't mention was illegal immigration. So talk to me about your policy on illegal immigration.
Sure. Illegal immigration, let me try to give you a summary. I opposed House Bill 116, which was a comprehensive immigration reform package that the state passed. I, however, supported House Bill 497, which mandated background checks, among other things, for those who were arrested for serious offenses. Now that might sound contradictory, but it's not, because House Bill 497 falls within our state constitutional power to police our own boundaries. And so I was a proponent of that. I think House Bill 116 is unconstitutional. It goes too far, and there are other issues with it that I disagree with. And that's why I don't want to be in a position as Attorney General to have to stand up and defend a law that even the proponents know is unconstitutional. I think we need to do a much better job enforcing identity fraud and theft. It's an issue now that's harming not just adults, but children and even unborn children whose identities are being taken away. Our current Attorney General has not made that a focus. I will be much stronger on that issue. I support an E-Verify bill that will bring businesses to the table to be part of the solution. An E-Verify bill with some teeth, because we have one on the books, but you can't enforce it. There's nothing to enforce. There's no enforcement mechanism. And so all of those things I want to do, particularly though I would use my influence as a state Attorney General to try to get our federal government to once and for all come up with a national immigration solution, starting with enforcement at the border, because that problem is not just an immigration issue, but a public safety issue, as I mentioned, with drugs and the gangs that come with it proliferating now into our state. So I take a different approach than our current Attorney General on immigration, but I've been very involved in the Latino community. I'm part Hispanic. I helped and have been active in a lot of the different Latino business groups, and I think that it's important to reach out. And it's interesting because many from the Latino community, the immigration is not their most important issue. They're just like the rest of us, hardworking, family values, and wanting the best in education and health for their families. So that's my immigration stance.
Thank you. I think I have time for just one more question,
Sure.
and then we'll let you wrap up. Talk to us about the Division of Consumer Protection and whether it should remain separate or whether it should come under the Attorney General.
So there's been a lot of discussion about that this last week. My opponent proposed that CPD, Consumer Protection Division, be brought under the auspices of the Attorney General's office. I think that's a horrible idea for a number of reasons. CPD already does a fantastic job doing what it's doing, and they handle many complaints, and they're great advocates for people who've lost money or entered bad, fraudulent contracts, and they help get the money back for the people. They help them get out of those contracts, all at a level that the Attorney General's office doesn't have to deal with. There's no reason to have them under the AG's office. Occasionally, a case or two will percolate up if it can't be settled at the administrative level with administrative law judges, and the AGs will then handle it either on a criminal side or a civil side. So it doesn't make sense from an efficacy standpoint. It doesn't make sense from an efficiency standpoint. In fact, it would be the opposite. It would make it more burdensome to both the AG's office and CPD to combine them. So the only reason you would do that is to combine power and control. And I am very leery of concentrating that much control in the hands of one agency or one office. Essentially, you would have investigators, ALJs, judges, regulators, and prosecutors all under the control of one agency. I think it's too much. And again, that's what I want to guard against. It doesn't guarantee abuse, but it makes it a lot easier and more susceptible to abuse. And again, I would point people, if they want to learn more about that issue, to Deseret News, Tribune, City Weekly, which has a copy of the tape, which the context of that issue was even more important than I think the actual policy of bringing it over. And the context was my opponent talking to a potential donor who had some issues with CPD, $400,000 worth of fines, and then his offer that he would move CPD to the Attorney General's office to essentially take care of the issue, be able to have control over that issue, because right now they don't have enough control. That's what people are worried about in this state. And as a wrap-up, I think you asked me to make a final statement. As I talk to people around the state, they've lost trust in the office. And the reason that they say, Sean, we're so excited about you, is because we trust you. We trust your legal skills, we trust your leadership skills, and mostly we trust you, that you'll do the right thing, that you'll roll up your sleeves, work hard, get the job done, not worry about political agendas, not worry about political credit, and we won't have to worry about these things that have caused us to lose faith in the office. I think it's so important that the people, if you are going to be the lawyer for the people, that the people trust you, That's what I will bring to the office. Again, Sean Reyes, Utah's next Attorney General, and I would ask all of the viewers for their support and their vote on June 26th and then November 6th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. And I'm going to echo what Sean said. Make sure you vote in the primaries on June 26th. Thank you.